Hi, welcome to Stories of Retirement, real stories about real people, about what retirement is really like. Today on the program, we have Bob and Mary. Bob and Mary, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, very glad to have you here. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your career?
Let me
Yeah, go
start.
ahead.
Well, I actually started in the restaurant business. We both
Hmm.
did. But to begin with, yeah, I was lucky. I hired on at 13. I was young
Wow.
and worked my way up through to obviously from dishwasher to the cook, that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
I ended up over the years, I was able to work with the best chefs in Utah Valley at that time
Wow.
and got a lot of training. So eventually we went into our own restaurant. And through the restaurant work, that's how I met Mary. So there are a lot
Hmm.
of good things happened with it.
I can
We
I can see some of that. Yes.
met a
But
lot of great people, customers and people we worked with.
was
But we
buying a
found,
restaurant a good thing? Did it make your? I'm sure you worked harder when you bought it.
well, I'll get into
Oh,
that.
okay. Oh, I'm ahead. I'm getting ahead of everyone. All right, that's fine. Well, tell us more about this then.
No, we worked a lot and worked with great people. We actually eventually went into our own restaurant, and the timing was bad with what was going on economy wise. And
Mhm.
so we didn't last too long, but we were working, even when we worked for other people, we worked so long hours
Right.
and we just wearing ourselves out. And we realized our family and friends, they were all playing, we were working. We
Right.
was
Yeah.
working all holidays, weekends, everything. And so when we had to close our restaurant, we decided that was a good time to make a change.
Hmm.
And I I guess I was talented building wise just through what my dad had taught me and stuff. Never really worked construction other than
Right.
help build when you help build the LDS churches when you're a young ward member, you go and basically I was cleanup, but I observed a lot.
Right.
But we decided to make the jump. So I went into construction, building, contracting. I hired on at the bottom,
Hmm.
worked our worked our way through it. And eventually and it took years, but eventually we ended up with our own.
So
And that went very
so
well for
twice
us.
in your life, then you started at the very bottom and worked your way up
It
eventually into
seemed like
ownership.
every time.
Okay.
And Mary, at
And
the same time, when we decided to make a change, she went to work for Nestle Corp,
hmm
and I would say she worked her way up to the ranks also, and ended up retiring after 29 years.
okay. Did you have much in the way of, formal education or education or training specifically for either the restaurant business or the construction business, or was it more
School
learn
of
on
Hard
the job?
Knocks.
School of Hard
Really
Knocks.
hard knocks.
I think it's the best school exists, the School of Hard
Yeah.
Knocks. One
We
of my,
really, we really was fortunate to work with great people and business owners and
Mhm.
very reputable in the valley at that time, top of
Right.
their game. So we learned some very good. And when I went into construction, I actually joined on with a union company, and I went through an apprenticeship.
Hmm.
Uh, I was probably the oldest apprentice they ever had. I think I was 28
Right.
or 29 when I went through
Right.
it. I mean, there were 17-year-old kids,
Yeah.
but they did allow me to what they called challenge the tests because of
Hmm.
my age, my experience. So I did that, and I did the apprenticeship in just under 2 years, a 4-year apprenticeship
Do you
in
feel
two
like,
years.
yeah, did your, let's put unquote, advanced age make it easier for you? I mean, did you have an advantage over the other apprentice?
I don't know that I had more advantage other than I probably appreciated it more. I was
Sure.
trying to accomplish something.
Right.
And
Yeah.
of
Well, you had
course, and
family, right? You had obligations because you're a little bit older.
yeah, and I did a home study also. I didn't go to a
Hmm.
classroom. I did a home study so I could really jump on the courses and go through them quickly. Then I had to go in and take tests and
Hmm.
pass it all. But
Right.
the one they told me blueprint reading, they said that's really a tough one to do home study on. I excelled on it. That was my favorite. I enjoyed it.
Oh.
And I've always been very good at reading blueprints. And it all paid off in the long run. And again, we
Hmm.
worked with great people. And when we got our own business, and Mary was working for Nestle and doing my books and everything besides her full time job.
Hmm.
And it wore us out also.
So, Mary, how many hours were you working a week, if you include
Well, I would work
Nestle and working doing his books?
probably what 50 at Nestle, and then
And
Oh,
so I said we were both working
a lot
over
of hours.
80-hour weeks. I
Yeah.
mean,
80-hour weeks.
and then you're so wound up you can't sleep.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And you're probably worried about things too, like what's going to happen tomorrow, or
Yeah.
are these guys going to show
Constantly.
up on time, or what about suppliers? And yeah, you kind of never rest, do you?
Uh, a
I do think
huge
that you're.
amount of
Go ahead.
a huge amount of things to overcome and learning as we go. A lot of it, because like I say, we
Hmm.
had no formal training, and my work was all out of town, or 90% of it was out of town, out of
Mm,
state. So it's
wow.
communication with
A phone.
telephones and or cell phones and computers, which you can see we're not extremely computer literate,
Right.
but we made it work. Probably a lot more stress on her than me. I could just scream and yell, and
Hmm.
Go to bed.
Yeah.
it was hard to. It was a challenge for sure.
Wow. Well, I think you're a great example though of, and I'm all for college and university, and I
Oh
want
yeah,
I want my heart surgeon to have a degree.
that's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
But there's definitely a place in this world for someone who's simply willing to take some risks, to
Yeah.
work very hard and learn from their mistakes, and also learn from other people. I mean, you didn't do this by yourself. You mentioned several times that you were surrounded by very good people, right? I imagine bosses
Yeah.
and some of your employees. So that's awesome. That's almost like kind of American dream, just work hard
Yeah.
and learn.
Yeah.
Great. So for how long did you do construction?
Wow.
You were
Trying to think what year it was when I switched over. I'm going to say,
86.
yeah, from 86 till
Mhm.
2016, I think is when I had to retire.
Okay. So you got some time
And like
in
I say,
there.
we wore our bodies out. So it
Right.
was a medical retirement I had to take. I wasn't ready to retire.
I was gonna, so if your body had held out longer, you may have kept working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you're working hard, you're building some success, and I imagine a good reputation here as a builder in the valley. And then was your forced retirement something that was kind of sudden, or was it sneaking up on you kind of slowly, like you kind of knew it was happening over time?
It was, I didn't know how long I could go on.
Hmm.
I really, even now, I'm much better shape now than I have been in, but I couldn't work a 4-hour shift, a 2-hour shift.
Oh.
I just, my back, hips, et cetera, just wouldn't
Hmm.
allow me to.
So
But
all that physical work really took a toll on your body then.
Yeah.
oh, it did.
All right.
And yeah,
So
it made me old before my time.
all before your time, yes. I think a lot of us can relate to that. So you retire, I guess, sooner than you wanted to. How was that transition? Was it, I mean, were you so relieved and you were glad, or were you just kind of bored, going crazy with nothing to do?
A lot of concerns financially, that kind of
Hmm.
thing. But as far as my body and what I could do, because I almost immediately went into surgeries and I had 5 years of one surgery after another. So in that
Oh,
respect, it was good. But I still miss the work. I still miss the people I worked with.
hmm.
I don't miss the politics end of it that I had to deal with,
Right.
because now I was the owner of my own company. So I have to go to all these meetings and stuff. And
Hmm.
a lot of them are productive, but a lot of them are a waste of time. And I had so much to do. I didn't want to be in there wasting time. I want to be out there doing what I'm paid to do.
That's right. Getting the
And,
job done.
and I
Yeah.
don't miss any of that. But the people I worked with, a lot of the clients I had, excuse me, uh, I miss that.
Okay. Is there any possibility, and I'm not telling you what to do, but could you do some type of consultative type work or, role in construction?
I
And
had a,
would that be worthwhile for you?
it would depend on, it's so hard. I was never one that just delegated. I had my
Hmm.
belt on. I went out there, worked with my
Ah,
guys,
right.
and we did everything from concrete to the building to finish work. We did everything.
Mm,
And part of why my body wore out, I guess, because went out and
yeah,
worked with my
yeah,
guys. I had some great guys.
yeah. Reminds me of an old joke. I love hard work. I could watch it all day. But you weren't watching it. You were actually in the trenches. You were doing it with the workers, which I'm sure is partly why you were successful because you
Well,
got
that's it, because
Yeah.
a
he
lot
saw what was
more
going on.
saw what's going on. You get the respect of your workers that you're just not sitting behind a desk the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of the funny part of that, offered my lead guy to take over my company. I said, "Hey, I've
Mhm.
got to go, and I'll work with you that you can take it over." Every one of them gave me the same answer: "We don't want it. You work too hard."
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. There's not a lot of people who are probably willing to work as hard as you are. They're looking for an easy road to success, which doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm full of quotations. Another one I really love that says, "A free lunch is only found in mousetraps." That's pretty deep. So tell me
Yeah.
now, what are you glad you did to get ready for retirement? Or was it even like, did you have a conscious plan? Or tell me
Yeah.
about that. No?
I wouldn't call it that. I think, well, Mary with hers, she had the 401k and she
Right.
put in like the maximum and stuff. With the union, I had a small pension that I got with the union.
Hmm.
Uh, we did have some little insurance investments type things that didn't really pan out the way we wanted them to.
Hmm.
Uh,
So
Probably
you're
as we were retiring, we started to do well enough, we was able to buy into a little real estate.
okay.
Which has
And
saved us.
that worked very well, which real estate for the last 20 years has been doing very well, but you never know when that's going to
Right.
stop. But for us, it worked very well.
So if I get this, if I understand this correctly, you were working so hard and so many hours, you didn't really take a lot of time to put into a formal
Right.
retirement plan. It just kind of happened because you worked hard, you made good money, and you saved
Right.
it.
Yeah.
You're good savers. Are there things then that you wish you would have done, or do you think the way you did it was just fine?
Yeah, absolutely. We both figured we'd have to work until we died. We didn't
Uh-huh.
think there's any way we'd be able to retire.
Right.
So that was kind of a retirement plan is we don't have them. We work till we can't. And that's kind of
Right.
what we did.
Mm.
But yeah, as far as what I wish we'd put more in when I was younger.
Okay.
But the reality of that is when you got kids and a house payment and cars and
Hmm.
insurances and all that,
You
that's
can't.
very tough to do.
No, it is. It is, and it may be getting even tougher these days. I don't know how young couples, can afford to buy a house.
For sure.
So, so now you're retired. Tell me, how is retirement the way you envisioned it, or the way you thought it might be?
I think, well, we have a lot of time to ourselves, but we keep
Hmm.
extremely busy. And I don't know, we comment all the time. We don't know how we had time to work,
Right.
but
That's
we're
quite a
able to keep
common.
busy. But a lot of it is whether it's, our home and our yard work, we're kind of like to keep the maintenance up on everything, which
Hmm.
that's things I can do. It takes me a little longer, but I can do it.
Right.
Uh, we feel very fortunate we've been able to travel a little bit,
Hmm.
and that part of retirement's good. Probably the big thing is you're all of a sudden you're on a fixed income.
Right.
You don't have a steady paycheck or anything coming in, so now you're taking what you got and saying, okay, we got to make this last.
Yeah.
And
Was that
so
difficult to make that transition from accumulating to now spending down?
we're still doing
Yes. Yes.
that. Yes, it is difficult.
Yeah. So,
You got a
you're
budget.
right. I would imagine though, tell me about your stress levels in retirement compared to working years.
I can say stress for me, and I'll let Mary answer for herself, but for me, the stress is far less than I ever had when I was
Hmm.
working.
Hmm.
Excuse me again. And your stress?
My stress is different. I've never had him around
Right.
24 hours a day. Not that it's a stress, but it's just different.
Yeah. Well,
You
I
know,
think you have to get used to it. You
you
do.
do. Yeah.
I just wrote a new book called The Happy Retirement Handbook. And one of the 12 steps I outline is having a conversation on time together and time apart. So that you're on
Mhm.
the hopefully pretty close to the same sheet of music.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And you may need some time alone. And that's nothing wrong with that. But
Oh,
just
yeah.
yeah, have that talk about that.
Yeah.
So how is retirement different than, or what are some things you weren't expecting that you're now experiencing in retirement?
I truly never thought we could retire.
Okay.
I felt like I remember going to Disneyland 40 years ago and seeing
Uh-huh.
an old waitress, and I thought that's what I'd be,
That would be you, huh, in the
being a
future.
slinging hash at 70.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a good feeling.
Oh, yeah, yeah. but I guess it turned out so far anyway, knock on wood,
Yeah. Yeah.
to not be that way. And I
Yeah,
would
we've
hope
been
that
very fortunate.
I would hope that the rest of your retirement looks, fairly positive for you.
Right. We're
Okay.
hoping.
Awesome. So what advice would you offer someone who, let's say they're maybe 5 years away or they're, or less, but they're getting close to retirement or they're just starting? What would you tell them?
At this stage, knowing what I know now, I would
Mhm.
probably say talk to people that are qualified to talk to, not
Mm.
just your friends, family,
Or a
Good.
Right.
banker.
somebody that can help you through the Social Security process, through this process.
Right.
Uh, how you're going to manage your monies, because we went into it all kind of quickly because I was forced to retire
Mhm.
and uneducated. And so, yeah, we learn as it goes, and to have that information sooner, maybe you postpone it a little longer or
Mhm.
make other adjustments.
Right.
I
So
don't know, but
so you have to be
it would-
informed and you're saying, and maybe get some expert outside opinions.
somebody that could
or
walk you
advice.
through the processes and preparing for your future would, for
Right.
me now, looking back, that'd be huge.
But I
Mm.
think also somebody that understands us, like we're real conservative. We save,
Mhm.
we worry.
Yeah. Like I say, we worked extremely hard to get what we have.
Right.
So very protective of it might be the way to say that.
And Mary, I'm glad you made that comment because there's a lot of advisors out there, and let's say that, some are pretty good, but even if they're very good and they don't quite get you, or they're trying to put you in like a cookie cutter approach, this is what my firm
Right.
does, and they put everyone in the same thing, then yeah, that's not going to be a good long-term relationship. They have to really
Right.
get to know you, and you got to feel comfortable. And I would even dare say like each other.
Oh, sure.
Because you'll spend time together. So yeah, you
Right.
want that kind of really, a very positive relationship with whoever's giving you the advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And up front, just saying, yeah, you're not doing so good. We got to look at something else, or
Right.
giving you ideas and things to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. This has been a great interview. For those of you weren't watching us beforehand, we had some technical difficulties, which we overcame and we persevered. Thanks to Bob and Mary, we made this work, and it's been a great interview. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Martin.
Thanks. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed the interview and learned something that you can use in your own retirement. If you've been retired for more than 1 year and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast to share your story, please visit storiesofretirement.com. If you have a question about retirement, or maybe you're not even sure where to begin, I offer all of my listeners a 1-hour consultation at no charge. Whether by phone, video call, or right here in my Orem office, I'll do my best to answer your questions, to help you avoid costly mistakes, and then put you on the pathway to a successful retirement. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, at Achieve More Retirement, our goal is to help you live your life on purpose. Please share this video with others.